and C.
Uh,
Okay, so welcome. This is episode 4 of
yes.
Another One for the Books. We have read more chapters this time. This time we've read 5 chapters of Elantris. We're playing a bit with the...
Ooh, I read 6.
Oh, you read 6?
Whatever, it's fine.
Whatever, we'll do 5. So yeah, I read up to chapter 10, I
Yes.
think. 11?
Oh, dear.
11. Yeah, I read up to
11,
chapter 11.
yeah.
So yeah, we're playing around with the kind of cadence of this to see how we can balance getting through the book quickly, but also going in depth enough. And we might increase it a little bit more. But yeah, for now, we'll do 5 chapters. But first, before we do that, how are you doing, Alex?
Oh, man, I'm doing pretty good. Just came back from my camping trip.
Nice.
It was so cool. Oh, my gosh.
Where'd you
I had to
go?
do more of the, I went up to just south of Pemberton. There's a provincial park campsite called Nairn Falls Campgrounds.
Yeah.
Beautiful, absolutely stunning. There's a bunch of little hiking trails around there where you can go to Nairn Falls itself, and it's just the roar of the water. You're literally standing right next to it. Of course, there's a fence in front of you,
Right.
but it's just surreal.
Cool.
And then the next day I went to Garibaldi. Hike. That's like a whole day hike. It was like the ascent descent is like over an hour, like under 2 hours for both. But just being up there in the mountains, like looking at, everything was snow. I was surprised by that, but shouldn't have been surprised. But I was literally there, just sitting and looking at everything for a solid 2 to 3 hours.
Wow,
it's crazy.
That's awesome.
I ended up reading a couple chapters of Elantris up there.
Cool, nice. That's fun.
Yeah, and I did some zip lining the next day at Whistler.
Man.
And there's a great coffee shop there, Rocket Coffee. Shout out. Don't think they'll, but phenomenal, like very cool. And so it was awesome. And then I went with a friend of mine to McLeod's Books, just downtown in Vancouver. Bought a bunch of books, and I got some stuff from Millen Gibson. I got a book from Margaret Atwood. Atwood.
Yep.
Elias Gray's. It's a first edition novel too, so I'm just like, hell yeah.
Nice.
And then just a bunch of knickknacks and stuff like that. Got a shelving unit that's like a wall divider that's just sitting on the floor, because I have to cut the poles because they're 10 feet long and my ceilings are 8 feet long.
Okay.
So I have to go get like a metal hacksaw.
Okay.
Or something like that. So it's been an eventful week, I guess, since last time we had recording. And then start work on Monday.
Yeah, start your new job.
Oh yeah, aerospace again. Let's go.
Not going to have as much free time, so maybe your update next week won't be as exciting.
I'll be dead.
What did you do this week? I worked, huh? Yeah.
Well, that's why I'm taking the advantage of this free time to go hiking and going to the beach and reading there, and doing a lot of like catching up with friends while they still have free time too. So that's been great.
Yeah.
But yeah. How about you?
And enjoying the summer, right? Because the summer in Vancouver is pretty nice.
Yes, as you can see, the curtains are drawn, but but it is sunny out. It's been like that. You can definitely smell a bit of forest fire, though.
Oh, so
that smoke is it's come our way.
Yeah, we had a few rough days here too with forest fires. It's settled down a bit, but definitely it's that time of year.
It's too soon that time of year, though.
Yeah, we might be in for a long summer when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. How about you? What's new and exciting with you?
I worked.
Super exciting.
Yeah. I worked. I mean, people who are watching the video podcast can see in my background there is this white box with a bunch of buttons on it. So I play fighting games. And there's a big new one coming out this week. It's the newest Street Fighter. So I also help organize tournaments and stuff locally. So we're holding an event on the Friday that the game comes out, and
nice.
Lots of lead up and planning for that. So I'm pretty excited about that. Other than that, just random stuff. Rachel and I, my lovely significant other, we were test driving other cars because we were thinking about getting the new car for the winter here. In the end, we just decided to, we'll stick with ours. Nothing really spoke to us. And also, like, the chip shortage thing is still real. We went to the Toyota dealership and their lot is like empty.
Wow.
And they told us, They told us that if you order a gas car, it's about 6 months out, and if you order a hybrid, it's a year out.
A year.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So we were like, because we thought, no, we could get like a kind of cheap, small SUV that's a hybrid, save money on gas, that kind of stuff. But yeah, we can
Mm.
wait a year if we even want it. So yeah, that's probably not going to happen.
I was looking at getting an EV soon, but some of those wait lists are a year long, if not
Mm-hmm.
more.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's gotta know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So yeah, other than
I
that,
feel the pain.
yeah, other than that, not much. Taking an extra long weekend this weekend. Looking forward to it. Hoping to do some more reading. Again, I'm still working my way through Second Era of Mistborn, which is still quite lovely. And yeah, just reading this book, Elantris, of course, and the book for our book club, Malice by John Gwynne. So between those three, I definitely have a lot of reading on my hands, which is really nice.
That's great.
Yeah, experiencing a bunch of different authors and different kinds of stories and different like time periods and stuff. Since all like
Yeah.
Mistborn era 2 is like the time jump, so they're like the time period of where electricity is starting to come into people's houses, and people are starting to drive cars, but there's still horse-drawn carriages, that kind of stuff. So yeah,
Victorian-esque
yeah, for sure.
era.
It's
Okay.
super cool. But we'll get there eventually. Right now, we're on the very first book from the Cosmere.
Oh boy.
Which is Elantris. Yeah, and also one thing I probably should let you know about that's great about Sanderson is that he does weekly updates on YouTube. So you can watch these 5-minute videos where he talks about the progress that he's making in books and different things that are happening. So for your benefit, since you probably didn't watch it this week, since you just didn't know about it, his weekly update is that he is 50% done with Stormlight 5, which is about 225,000 words. He thinks it's going to be about 450,000, which is the average for a Stormlight book, which is about like 1,200, 1,400 pages. So yeah, that's exciting. And he also, I don't know if you know this, but he has a convention every year called Dragonsteel that happens in Utah. And that I think like last year was like completely sold out.
Whoa.
So maybe one year, once we've read more of these, we can go together.
We could have a podcast there.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
That'd be good. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Sanderson, let us know. Hit us up. I'll promise to watch more videos.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, okay. With that out of the way, I guess we can probably just sort of segue into talking about the 5 chapters we read.
Yeah.
So we are going to do this a little quicker than we did in the last few episodes because we're trying to read more of them. So we won't go as in depth, but we'll try to call out the moments that we thought were interesting and maybe theory craft, talk about what we think is going to happen, that kind of stuff. So why don't we get into it?
Yeah.
Okay. So chapter 7. This one starts with Rhaoden, and he's practicing that magic called Aeon Door, I think is what it's called.
Yeah,
and
Aeon Door, the signs are Aeon.
The signs are called Aeons, yeah, which actually comes into play at the end of this chapter. One thing I noted about this is that he talks about how easy it is for him. So I bet, if Elantris, if they do succeed in fixing Elantris, that he'll be a pretty powerful magic user. But he also, just from like the previous stuff, he seems like a pretty smart guy. Like he reads a lot,
he
that
tends
kind of
to figure things out quicker.
Yeah,
so I wouldn't say it's just because his Rhaod is not as like affected as the others. I'd say he's just a clever guy. That's it. Yeah. And Galadon was only there for under a year, and he was able to read those books and understand how to do it.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think there's probably a little bit more to Galadon, though. He might have more of an understanding.
Yeah. So I did. Yeah. So there is like a bit of a because Rhaoden finds out later on that he this is my thing. Like Rhaoden's a clever guy, but he doesn't click in right away that Galadon knows a lot more than he should.
Right.
And he Rhaoden's just absorbing this information. He's like, cool, Galadon, you're awesome. But he doesn't not so far. He hasn't said, a lot more than you let on. But he does that later on. I think it is next chapter 12. I believe that's where he's like, Galadon, who are you exactly?
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
So, I'm definitely curious to find out more about him, about his background, and exactly what's going on there.
Imagine him being a farmer. He's just like, I'm just an honest man making an honest living.
I don't believe him.
I wouldn't believe him if he said that either.
So,
I don't know, with your talents, cultivating the fields.
no, don't buy it.
Yeah.
So yeah, he
yeah.
is.
Oh, go
He's
ahead,
surprised. So yeah, Rhaoden, as he's doing the signs, the aeons, he's drawing them in the air. He's I think he's a little bit. Well, he's surprised about how easy it is, but we also we note that they just sit there and kind of fade.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't know if we find this out before. I think maybe this is when he explains it, but he talks about how at some point he was hurt, like he broke his arm or something, and his mother took him to Elantris, and they used that magic system by drawing things, and it healed him. So they're supposed to do something. Like you draw it in the air, it makes the character, and then it does something. But right now they're just like not doing something. So the Sheod, when it happened, it affected the magic system as well as the Elantrians.
Yes.
Yeah. So they talk about those connections for a bit, and they also talk about like why Galadon chose this place and why he didn't sort of let Rhaoden know about it immediately. And Galadon's talking about how he's like protecting the books because, you know, this is a source of information. He doesn't want people to eat them, which is what that one guy's gang was doing.
Yeah.
But he did
skin covered books.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. They would boil them. But he did bring Rhaoden there to help him like read the books, gain knowledge, and try to like fix what's happening in Elantris, which is kind of cool. So after this, they have that little discussion there. We go to the next scene, and they're going to the square where the new arrivals come, and they're waiting, and they actually see. So this is when like this is the moment kind of when all the characters are interacting with each other, or at least they're close to each other, because we have Hrathen giving his sermon or whatever on top of the walls of Elantris. Sarene's there challenging him, and then Galadon and Rhaoden are there, and they see him up there, and they're trying to like theorize as to like what could he be doing. They don't actually know what he's doing, but they just see him. So like all of the main characters have interacted with each other, but not directly.
Well, not yet. I mean, Sarene in the next. Well, Sarene already.
That's true. Sarene
kind
has
of interacted, but like in the next chapter, she does. Like she actually, we go back to the scene that Rhaoden and Galadon are witnessing at this moment, and Sarene is actually like playing dumb and questioning what Hrathen's saying, and actually causes a bit of like dissent in the rabble that he's like accumulated to the top to try to convince them that the Elantrians are evil and they're the cause of all these problems that Arelon's facing.
Yeah.
So what I noticed particularly interesting, or maybe to me was interesting, that Rhaoden and Galadon just notice it's a Gjorn, and they're like, "Oh, this guy's here. What is he up to? Not really a priority."
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they don't think that he's blessing them, but they don't.
Like angry shouts is what they say. From the top.
Exactly. Yeah,
cursing them.
Yeah, so it's not a great thing. But yeah, they still don't really know what's happening. Yeah. So after that sort of brief encounter, a newcomer does come to Elantris. He's described as a man in his 40s. And Rhaoden kind of uses fear to convince him to come with him. I can't remember like he tells him like you have to run, where we have to run with me, or is that what it is? Because this happens. Sorry, this happens twice in these 5 chapters. Like he recruits this guy later in a couple chapters. He recruits 3 more people, and I can't remember what method he used this time around.
Well, it's a bit of like a fear tactic. So he like walks up to Maresh, is his actual name, but he calls him Arelon.
That's right. Yeah, he calls him by something else.
"Hey, Arelon, is it you?" And he like goes up to him and like clasps his shoulder, and then like whispers in his ear, "It's like, you got 2 options, buddy. You either come with me, or you get pelted by those dudes over there who are stalking you." And so Maresh is like, "Oh, what do I do?" And so Rhaoden like tells him to run, to like start running, and then when the guys start running at them, you know, Merrick clicks into Maresh that he has to get going. Trust, like he can only trust this guy.
Yeah.
Essentially. And so Galadon is confused by this because Rhaoden did not tell him he was going to do this.
Yeah. And that like a chase ensues, right? So he starts running with, so because the girl's name is Sarene, I was pronouncing this guy's name as Mareshi or Mareshe or something like that. But yeah, what did you call it?
I said his name was Maresh, but
Yeah, I mean
Mareshi
that
could work.
it just has the E on the end, just like Sarene
Yeah,
does.
fair
Anyways,
enough. Okay, well,
so yeah,
go back
chase
to our
ensues.
second episode where I butcher everything.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm keeping it. I'm keeping it.
You're keeping it
Keep taking it
consistent at
stride.
least.
Yeah,
Yeah.
consistently wrong.
So yeah, they do use that house that they found
Mhm.
before as a
With the
trap
broken
with the broken
staircase.
staircase. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're on the roof. The staircase collapses as Sheor's men are chasing them.
Mhm.
And the guys are just like waiting down there like NPCs in like a video game. They're just like not leaving for some reason.
I used to be an
Uh,
adventurer like you, and then I got
an arrow
uh
to the knee.
arrow to what's with what's it? Oh no, the rayo. I got a rayo to the soul or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Now I'm banished to
Uh,
Elantris.
so yeah, some time passes. They're like sitting on top of the roof,
Mhm.
and this is when Rhaoden is like questioning this new guy. So his name, Mareshe, whatever.
Mhm.
He's a jeweler, and Rhaoden explains to him like what happens in Elantris, and then he kind of convinces him to, like in an underhanded way, he convinces him to make shoes because he wants to protect his feet.
Yeah. Well, that's yeah, exactly. So we're getting a glimpse of what Raiden's planning here, which
Hmm.
is starting his own little gang.
Yeah.
What Raiden does is he uses Marishi's pride against him. It's like, oh, you're
Yes,
just
that's
like a
exactly
jeweler, like bet you can't make shoes or whatever. And he's like, oh, I can make shoes. Like, oh, great, make me some shoes, make us
it.
some shoes,
Yeah.
because and then he tells him like, because every single cut and bruise you're gonna get here is gonna last forever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Mareshi does recognize Rhaoden as well, but like he doesn't know, like he recognizes him, but he doesn't know who he is.
Mm-hmm.
And Rhaoden also like kind of brushes it off. And this is also where he adopts that nickname of Spirit, like Lord
Yeah.
Spirit. This is what he's called. And the Aeon for Spirit is Rheo.
Mm-hmm.
So this later on is kind of what gives Galadon. So another hint for Galadon as to the identity of Rhaoden, because Rhaoden hasn't
Yeah.
really said who he is at this point.
And that's another thing I kind of found weird with. I mean, maybe not weird, but the interaction between Galadon and Rhaoden, they're kind of trusting each other, but they also are starting to get curious to know each other's secrets.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think later in the chapters, Galadon is like, it's revealed that Galadon is like actively thinking to find out who this guy is, because Rhaoden is actively trying to do something, some change in Elantris.
Yeah.
And no one's done that. So Galadon's like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
Whereas I guess like Rhaeden's too preoccupied to like actually find out what Galadon knows and who he is, because he's so
Mm-hmm.
knowledgeable.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Galadon is really clever. He's really clever.
He is for
Yeah.
sure. Which again makes me believe that he knows more than he's leading on. Like he knows more about what's happening.
Yeah. He's probably
Yeah.
like a banished prince from another Duradel. Is that the country that got
Guladel.
Duladel? Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe. Mm.
So yeah, next chapter. That's the end of this chapter. Chapter 8 is a Sarene chapter, and this is a pretty
It's
beefy
a pretty
one.
big one. And
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
it is pretty good. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So it does all start with Sarene in the palace, and
Mm-hmm.
this is when she's like playing dumb to try and get intel inside the palace. She's painting. We
Mm-hmm.
do note that she's like really bad at it.
Awful.
So
they all criticize her. Both
yeah,
her, Ash and Lukel, like show up. Are like, "What are you drawing?"
yeah,
Like, I'm drawing this lovely painting. It's like, what is that? A potato?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So one thing that I noted with this is that if she ever did become an Elantrian, like back in the day, if she ever had to do Aeon Door, because she's such a bad painter, I wonder if she would be like really bad at doing the Aeon Door magic. Like if she would like screw it up or
Oh
something.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess so.
Because they're
She just make
planting
it an
that
awful
seed,
mess.
right? They're planting the seed that she's a bad painter, and the magic system
Uh,
has to do with drawing things.
oh, is this
So
a Chekhov's paintbrush?
could be.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'll gloss over a bit of what happens
Mhm.
in the palace, but essentially, she, like we said, she plays dumb. The king shows up. He's like, "What are you doing here?" And she's like, "I was painting this thing." He's like, "You can't be in here," or something. And then so like she just moves. Like there's some
Yeah.
way that I can't remember exactly what the interaction was.
I think what happens is that the king like leaves the court. He's like, oh, he gets like flustered and upset that she's like there, like
Well,
in the same like throne room where his
so
throne is.
yeah, I mean, she does go off to the side because
I'll pull up the photo.
she watches that interaction with the king and the
His
two
barons,
nobles.
right? Yeah,
Yeah. So
because she's gonna ask the question to Lukel about like, there shouldn't be slavery here, but
yeah,
looks like we got some slaves here.
exactly. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, so there's two nobles that come in. They're arguing about the ownership of actually a slave's children. So I
Hmm.
don't remember exactly how it played out, but a slave was owned by one guy, well, quote unquote owned, because slavery is technically illegal,
Hmm.
owned by one guy, and then moved to another slave master or something. He had children, and now they're arguing which noble actually owns the children, which is pretty ridiculous. And yeah, like we said, slavery isn't legal, but this sort of system has come to into being because of the king's the way he rules. Like
Yeah.
he gives people titles based on wealth, so
And
they
production,
and
and so they
production. Yeah,
lose that title if they don't
exactly.
meet
Yeah,
the
so
quota.
individual landowning rights are gone. The
Mm.
king grants land, and he makes the nobles work the fields while the slaves work the fields, but the nobles manage it. And
Mm.
if they don't have enough production and they don't make enough money, they lose their title. So it's
Yep.
led to this system where the lower class is just pretty much abused by the upper
Hmm.
class, and like they starve, and it's just really, really rough for them.
Going back to the easel in the throne room. So it
Mm,
is the throne room.
yeah,
So I can read it if you want.
sure.
It was the day that, after her meeting with Kins, Sarene procured herself an easel and paints and set them up directly in the middle of Aeden's throne room.
Hmm.
What in the name of Dome are you doing, girl? The king exclaimed as he entered the room that morning, a group of apprehensive attendants at his side. Serena looked up from her canvas with imitation surprise. I'm painting, father, she said, helpfully holding up her brush, an action that sprayed droplets of red paint across the chancellor's defensive. I can't even
That's
read. Chancellor Defense's face. Eyed inside. I can see that you're painting. I meant, why are you doing it here? Oh, Serena said innocently. I'm painting your paintings, father. I do like them so. You painting my. And then Aiden asked with a dumbfounded expression. But Serena turned her canvas with a proud smile, showing the king a painting that only remotely resembled a picture of sunflowers.
mm,
Oh, for dummy's sake, Aiden bellowed. Paint if you must, girl. Just don't do it in the middle of my throne room.
right.
Serena
Then
opened
this
her
is
eyes wide. It gets revealed in a bit that
yeah,
Serena doesn't actually leave. She just stays there.
yeah. She moves to the side.
Yeah. Put her
Yeah,
easel chair over the side of the room near one of the pillars, sat down,
yeah.
and continued to paint. Aiden groaned. I meant, damn, Dami, curse it. You're not worth the effort. With that, the king turned and stalked over to his throne and ordered the secretary to announce the first item of business, a squabble between two minor nobles over some possessions.
Yeah,
So, yeah, so my bad. He doesn't storm out of the room. He just tolerates her being there.
essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
And she
And
just
so she
moves off to the
eavesdrops.
side.
Yeah.
Yeah. So while they're talking about the slave ownership, the ownership of the slaves' children, this is when
Mm,
Lukel's there. Lukel is there because he's also a successful merchant like his father, and all the successful merchants have a standing invitation
mm,
to the king's court. So he does a lot of explaining of what's going on with this sort of
mm-hmm.
disagreement between the nobles. So,
And
oh, go
for
ahead.
how the king came to power.
Yeah, that's right. They
Yeah.
do talk about that. Like,
Hmm.
there was what was it? The Sheod happened. There was a lot of chaos, and
So, oh, go ahead. I'll let you finish your train of thought because
just
you're
that
on a.
he already had an agreement with the Merchants Guild, and he was already like a pretty what's the
Hmm.
word? He was like in a high standing in there, and that's all I really remember is that because of that relationship, he was able to secure power. Was there
Hmm.
more? Or am I missing something?
The context to how he and the Merchant Guild were able to just take over the rule of Arelon from the Elantrians, because the Elantrians could pretty much make anything, but there were some things that they didn't have time to make or didn't like want to prepare to make.
Yep.
And so a deal was struck with the Merchants Guild, which Iodon was one of the most prominent figures of,
Yeah.
to just procure more items from outside of the country
Hmm.
as like a, compromise in this case. Like I would say coexistence, but whatever. So
Yeah.
when the Sheod did happen, uh, the ones with all the power now was the Merchant Guild, because they now had all the money. They could
Hmm.
buy all the mercenaries to just force their way in
Yep.
and exact the ruling how they see fit.
Yep.
So,
That's right.
and
And
apparently there's a comment that Luke will. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
well, I was just going to say that the merchants also, like, so the Elantrians provided the necessities for the people, like, because they could
Mhm.
make them out of nothing. So the merchants specialize in luxuries. So
Yes.
that's why
Yeah.
they're all kind of the way they are. Like, there's they have that sort of attitude of wanting the nice things in life.
They can, yeah, because they're able to make trade with other nations and
Hmm.
places for items that the Elantrians couldn't think of making or
Yes.
wanted to have for their own
Yeah.
sake or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, but yeah, so what was it? Lukel makes a comment, or Sarene makes a comment to Lukel, I think, if I remember correctly, where she notes that Ion can be like very flustered and short fused, I suppose.
Hmm.
Lukel says like, well, he's not like this in all regards. When it comes to actually doing business and like strategizing, he's very focused
Mm,
and very meticulous. But when it comes to everything else, he's just impatient about it. He just
right.
brushes it off as meaningless to him,
He's a
which is
good
probably
businessman.
why, yeah, which is probably why the country is not doing so great.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
Because
only about making money
exactly. Yeah,
and
100%.
public credit.
Wow, I haven't heard a Watto
Watto
impression in
express.
a long time.
Uh,
Anyway, so
Thousand Qatar's.
yeah, Iadon does eventually make a decision in this, and he
Mhm.
decides to split up the family. So
Yeah,
the slave stays with one noble, and the children go with another.
yeah.
There is a note that like the slave doesn't really react; he just kind of looks down, but he doesn't like
But
fight it or anything. He's just like very, very
Serene
disappointed.
notices.
Serenity
Yeah,
notices for sure. Yeah. Um. So yeah.
it was this comment because like this will play later in the chapters that Serena noticed that like the peasant himself like can't do anything, but he's like very much upset about the decision and wants to
Yes.
do something about it. And Serena's
Yeah.
like, there's a spirit against all of this system
Hmm.
already.
That plays into Serene's plan, with when she presents it to that council, like the
Mm,
group, Rhaoden's group later on.
yeah.
That's sort of the seed I think that was planted.
That's a fun scene with the group. It's really cool.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's super cool. Yeah, I really liked how that was done. So yeah, the conversation does switch a little bit to Rhaoden. Like Luca was his best friend, so he talks
Hmm.
about him fondly. He talks about like how he was amazing at everything. Um, and they also talk a bit about Kyan, her uncle, about how he
Hmm.
doesn't, how he refuses a title, and
Yeah.
like the king only tolerates him, but he can't really do anything about it because he's so successful as a businessman. Like he's one of the most successful in the kingdom, probably. But he does refuse a title, so he lives kind of like outside of the system, which I thought was interesting.
He also is like really buddy buddies with a lot of the powerful
Oh yeah,
nobles.
yeah,
So
he's well
King
respected.
Idon wants to not stomp in a hornet's nest with that one.
Yes, that's exactly it. Yeah. They do talk a little bit about like the succession.
Hmm.
Is there going to be another one? They say the king's pretty young still. He could have another child. And then they talk a bit about Rhaoden's group, and that sort of piques Serene's interest, and she wants to obviously be a part of it.
Mm.
And eventually, Lukel does cave and say that, okay, I'll see if you can get you in.
Mm.
So next scene is Serene going to Kyan's for lunch. They have a meal, and Serene gets teased quite a bit about her art.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, this time I'll allow the kids to grow on me a bit. Like, yeah, give her heck.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they talk about like schools of art and a bunch of other stuff.
Hmm.
Eventually, Serene wants to see more of the city, but both Kyan and Lukel can't do it. So the two twins, I can't remember their names now.
Ace and Daorn.
Daorn, yeah,
Yeah.
they take her to the Wall of Elantris. This
Mm.
is where she sees Hrathen preaching, and she
Yeah,
plays
they
dumb.
all climb up. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, she plays the dumb. Yeah, continue, sorry.
No, yeah. Which again I thought was really cool. It shows Serene's character a bit,
Hmm.
and how smart she is because she's able to strategize with her questions that she asks and kind of really undermines what Hrathen's doing, which I thought was
Yeah.
super cool. But I also thought that the way Hrathen handled it was really, really cool too, because he was just like, he was very gracious in defeat. Like he recognized, she's completely dismantling this and my answers aren't sufficient. So he lost the crowd. But at the end, he knows it doesn't really matter. because he can win back the nobles that are there. But
Yeah.
Dilaf, not happy with it.
Elantris
That
is a
guy's
powder keg. Oh
that
my
guy has got
god.
anger issues. Something bad's going to
Ugh.
happen to him.
That we kind of foreshadowed this like a couple episodes ago where I mean Hrathen was like, if I don't like put a leash on this guy, he's gonna absolutely make a mess of everything, and it
Yeah.
looks like it's going to be the case. And
Oh
there's going
yeah.
to be I don't know if I read ahead too far in this one, but when Hrathen makes like addresses his gosh darn it, when he does a sermon in the church,
Yes.
he like leaves, or he thinks he like said his piece in the sermon, and he's like, all right, that's it. But then Dilaf comes up behind and does another sermon without him knowing about it, or
Oh.
he doesn't. Oh, maybe I did read too far.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know
All right,
this.
let's dump that. So
Okay.
Dilaf is gonna be a problem.
It's okay. I don't really mind, but yeah,
Okay, yeah.
we'll
So
I'll get to that part.
yeah, but it's cool because Hrathen like Hrathen thinks that he knows everything, and he became the epitome of preaching and sharing Javith's wisdom with the rest of the world.
Yeah.
But then Dilaf does it differently. He's like very much animated when it comes to it, and he like becomes very accusatory to the Elantrians for letting this all happen to everyone in Arelon.
Right.
And it gets people's attention and are actually like engaged with the lot. They're actually possessed by his energy.
Yeah.
Which reminds me a lot. And I was watching a documentary on fascism the other
Oh,
night,
yeah.
and I was like, that reminds me a lot of the things that Hitler did. Oh
Right.
God,
Yeah.
it's not going to go well for Hrathen if Dilaf is going to get away with this.
That's
Because
interesting.
people are going to listen to Dilaf instead. That's what I'm thinking.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they're both. I got the sort of what is it, the vibes, I guess, of fascism as well with Rothen's plan, right? Like he's uniting people against other people, like for lack of a better word, like a race of other people. So he's finding like a common thing to coalesce around a cause. Though fascism is usually also like what's the word? It's like nationalist as well, right? Like
it's heavily based on nationalism.
Yeah.
A sense of identity that is simple and fixed, and if
Yeah.
no one else conforms to it, they are removed, for lack of better terms, and I won't say anything else.
Yeah.
Because you could just open up a history book on that and realize removal could mean many things.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyways, so yeah, this is not a history podcast, but no, that's a really good point that you make. Because I got the same.
Draw some tidbits here. Come on.
Yeah, no, I got the same read on that too.
Okay,
so yeah, after this happens, the crowd kind of disperses. Dilaf obviously gives her the evil eyes as they're leaving. And then Sarene also, she sees she's looking into Elantris after everything disperses. She sees Galadon, Rhaoden, and Mareshe. But she obviously does. Yeah, but she can't. Yeah, they're sitting on the rooftop. This is when they're talking. Obviously she doesn't know anything about them, so she can't really make out anything. And she's also leans over the wall of Elantris like a little bit too far until Ash is like, whoa, what are you doing? And she calls back and she like falls back. So she gets a little bit sort of carried away with her studying of Elantris.
Yeah, and Kae's is like, you think her being so tall will get her used to heights? little shit.
Stupid kids.
Stupid. Ugh. That one, the least favorite of the twins. I'm sorry.
Fair enough. I mean, I don't like her that much either.
Yeah. There's one thing in this chapter as well, is that like Sarene plays it dumb, but she's like using Hrathen's sermons, I suppose, speeches against him.
Yes.
By like questioning it.
Yeah.
But Hrathen, like you said, isn't. He's like upset by it, but he knows it's just like it's not a big deal.
Yes.
What I found interesting as well is that Hrathen and Sarene make an exchange too, where they like recognize each other as opponents. Like Hrathen's like, "You win this round."
Yeah.
And Sarene's like, "Better watch yourself."
Basically, he walks away and says, "GG's." Right.
And she says, "Easy."
It's just a
MVP,
toxic Overwatch lobby.
Yo. God, Overwatch.
Anyways,
all right.
Okay, that's the end of chapter 8.
Yeah.
Chapter 9 is a Hrathen chapter. So Hrathen he kind of professes his admiration, like he's impressed by Sarene's performance and her rhetorical skills. Delof is obviously not too happy
Enthused.
about it.
Yeah.
We do learn, and I think we already kind of knew this, but we get a little more insight that Hrathen was the one that was responsible for the fall of the
Yep.
Duladel Republic, or the Duladen Republic, whatever they call it.
Hmm.
Um,
And he's
yeah,
also a bit scared that this won't be so easy for
yes,
Arelon.
yeah.
And that reveals a new character or a new side of Hrathen, is that he doesn't want people to die.
No, like he
Yeah.
actually, like, when we're introduced to him in the, I think, third chapter,
Hmm.
and he talks about himself as the savior of Arelon,
Hmm.
I thought it was like hubris. Like I thought it was just like,
His
him
ego.
being, yeah, his ego, yeah. But he actually is not a terrible person, which is nice because he's a more than a one-dimensional villain, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, he doesn't want people to suffer because he
Hmm.
remembers the fall of Duladel and how bad that was, all of the bloodshed, and he wants it to go better this time around.
He wants to prevent it from happening again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And he's
So
going straight to the sauce, which is the nobles.
exactly. So that's the next scene, is where he meets
Yeah.
with some of the nobles. He does brush off, like they question him a bit about what happened on top of the wall, but he
Yeah.
he brushes it off and shows that it wasn't really,
A big thing.
a big thing for him. Yeah. Um. So go ahead.
He's like promising power and
Yep,
stuff if like they join the Fjordan Empire, whatnot.
that's right. He wants to
And some of
convert
them are,
them, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's like, oh, if you show, he's not saying like join Jadith. He's like, if you join the Fjordan Empire, if you align yourself with Wern,
Yeah.
uh, like here are the boons you'll get, and which should be way better than what King Aegon is doing to you right now in his like rudimentary system of governments and whatnot,
But
which really rings well.
he's not
Okay.
actually able to like come up with any specific, like they do
Hmm.
grill him a bit on like what are the specific things that we'll get. Like, okay, this sounds great. What are you gonna give me?
Spill the beans. What is it?
Yeah.
See that contract.
But
See
he
that in
kind
writing.
of like dodges the question a bit.
Yeah.
Uh
Like every recruiter on LinkedIn.
yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Oh
um
goodness.
so he could be, there's a couple reasons he could be doing this. I think he's probably doing it to like have a little bit of plausible deniability. Like he's like, I never actually promised them anything. I
Yeah.
just said, you could get some stuff. He's trying to distance himself a bit from any concrete evidence of his interference.
Mm.
That's my read, but it could be something different. But he does want them to convert to Shudareth, to the
Yeah.
religion, so it'll be a sign, and also denounce the Elantrians.
That was the other big thing. I
Yeah.
thought he was going to say denounce King Aegon, but no, the
Mm,
Elantrians.
yeah.
But it makes sense because his whole MO is to make the Elantrians the evil, right?
Yes.
And to
Yeah.
let the what was the Derethi, the name
Uh,
of the religion,
Shudareth.
Shudareth, and let
Yeah.
the Shudareth like be the way to cleanse that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Exactly. Yeah.
like
Uh,
everything would stay in its place, but as long as people accept that religion, they're not going to get killed.
Yeah. He also talks a bit, excuse me, about how the Karathi religion is in decline,
Mm-hmm.
and he compares it to. So apparently, the religion in Duladel, or Duladen,
Mm-hmm.
was called Jesker. It was one of the oldest religions in the world, but it was also in decline for years, and then the fall of the Republic happened very, very quickly. So he tries to draw that parallel that the Karathi religion, Shu Korath, has been in decline for many, many years. So he's saying that the fall of Arelon is probably going to also be really, really quick. So he's trying to convince them.
Doesn't he
Um,
mention the downfall, the quick downfall to the Elantrians as well? Like it's like a cursed power that the true religion
yeah,
is.
I think he does try to kind of make
Yeah, tie-in
comparison as well.
comparison. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And at the very end, there is one noble there named Telri or Telrai,
Yeah,
who's
we
like one
see
of the
him a
most
bit in
powerful.
the previous chapter, chapter 8,
He is
where
there, yeah. I think he's the
Sarene
one who
knows
has
him.
like the birthmark on his
He's
face or
got a
something.
blemish on his face, yeah, on
Yeah,
one side of his face.
but he
Yeah.
is one of the most powerful nobles. And
Mm.
at the end of the chapter, Hrathen takes him aside and he's like, I got a special proposal for you. But
Hmm.
we obviously don't find out what that proposal is yet.
Yeah.
So, oh, sorry, do you have anything?
No, that
Okay.
was it.
Yeah, next chapter is chapter 10.
Mm.
This is Rhaoden and Galadon, again, they are now waiting for more new recruits. And they also have their shoes. Mareshi made them shoes.
Yeah.
So that's kind of sweet. His plan's starting to come together, at least the first part of it. Um, so they're waiting for new arrivals. And this time it turns out there's 3 of them. Rhaoden obviously has a plan, but he didn't tell it to Galadon because
He's
as
still
they're
not telling it to Galadon.
no, because
Yeah.
as they walk to these new arrivals, he tells Galadon, like, you need to make a distraction for me. And I was like, okay. And Galadon's like, what? Which I thought was really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It puts him on the spot right there too.
Yeah. But he does take off. And because Sheor's men recognize Galadon because they led him into the trap, he was one of the ones that led them into the trap last time, they take off after him. And this allows Rhaoden to come and convince the newcomers to follow him. And he convinces them by saying that Galadon has the cure, so come with me if you want the cure, and we can all go together, which I thought was actually kind of clever. So they do follow him. They go back to the same house that Mareshi's in. We meet these 3 newcomers. One is Mare or Mare. I don't know how to pronounce it. She's a housewife. One is Ryle, a workman, and the other one is Seolin, who is a soldier in Aondel's personal legion. And we actually meet Aondel in the next chapter, the Sarene chapter. He's one of the group, which was kind of cool.
He is the one with the most skilled military force in
the
Arelon.
Legion. Yeah, and they're the ones who patrol the border and the paths to the trade routes and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And the Legion is very well regarded. They're really, really good soldiers, apparently. So after some conversation, he gets Mareshi to talk to them to explain what's happens with Elantris, what your life's going to be like now. He gets Ryle to build a roof. He wants him to build a roof because he has that kind of experience. And we also learn that where they're in is actually a Karathi shrine. And later a bit, Galadon shows up and
shakes off his pursuers.
Yep. Yeah. And Rhaoden was starting to get a little bit worried, but he does show up. And they have a bit of talk about what they're doing. And Rhaoden's plan is just to sort of get a sense of purpose for the people of Elantris, right? He's trying to get them to actually live instead of just accepting that they're dead and spending the rest of eternity doing nothing, essentially.
Yeah.
Which
is commendable because
absolutely, yeah.
No one's done it from what I understand.
No, no one has.
To do that.
I mean, it doesn't seem like no one has. We don't know that anyone has. And then Rhaoden wants Galadon to go take him somewhere, and we find out in this next scene that he wants to see this Aonden person, which is the one who is in the library. The guy who boiled books and stuff like that.
To see if he's actually a baron. But
yes. He is not. He was a sculptor, one of Kae's best sculptors. His name was Tan, but he's definitely not a noble. And this is also when Galadon finally makes the connections as to who Rhaoden really is.
Yeah. He actually pins it down as you're a noble, you're royalty. Because no one else would know this.
Yeah, exactly.
And the part, he's noting his education, his willingness to help people. He's does Galadon does Galadon say he's the prince, or he's just tell me who you are? Because
I think he recognizes who he is, that he's the prince because of, again, what you said, he knows the nobles, and because at one point he did say that he knew all of the nobles in Kae.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And also because people are calling him Lord Spirit, which is the symbol for Rheo, which is his name, Rhaoden. So he's able to put that together.
And he's not a fan of royalty. That's what we
Galadon isn't?
Galadon.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I didn't have that. Okay, that's cool.
So they have a bit of a back and forth where it's royalty, they always think to themselves and stuff like that. And so, or Galadon says that, and Rhaoden's well, I'm stuck here with you, and we need to make this better for everybody.
Right. Yeah.
I understand that, but I wish you could have told me that sooner instead of letting me run around and get chased and not being part of your plan. So yeah, Rhaoden apologizes for it.
Yeah. So 2 sad things to close out this chapter. The first one is they talk about why are there no babies?
Yeah, the kids.
Oh, that
I
was
was thinking
sad.
about that too. Actually,
Yeah,
like, well, we see in the first chapter we saw the boy get absolutely smashed in with a
he was
club.
young. Yeah,
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 but like no babies or children.
yeah, and
So
it's
I thought it was just
because
like, oh, there's an age range or whatever.
no, it's because they don't survive long when they get here,
Oh
which is pretty
boy.
brutal.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's definitely a sad one. And the other sad part is Rhaoden sees his old Seon, Ian,
floating down.
floating around. He's doesn't know what's going on. He's just and he the sad part of it is for anyone who's even a pet owner, like obviously these Seons are way more
Seance.
than pets,
Hmm.
but he puts his hand out like he always used to do, and it comes and sits in his hand for a little bit and looks around like confused and then just leaves. Right. So
Yeah,
there's a hint of recognition there, but it's not. And I think to close out the chapter, he's like, my fate was bad, but yours, like, I'm sorry
is
for what
worse.
happened to you. Like,
Yeah.
that's really, really sad. That made me sad. I was really upset with that one.
Because the Seon's name is Ian.
Ian. Yeah,
Ian.
Ian. That's what I got.
And yeah, and so it just like once it comes out of his hand, it just
Keeps
like
floating.
floats around and
I think it like
aimlessly.
hits a wall or something and keeps
Yeah, I was like,
going.
man, I was like, oh god,
Yeah, that was so sad.
that's awful.
Oh, it was brutal. Yeah.
Ugh, yeah.
Anyways, so chapter 5 is also, or chapter 5, chapter 11 is also a really
Going
interesting
back in
chapter.
time. No.
This is the one, this is the big chapter with
The
Sarene's
nobles.
sort of, taking
Mhm.
over of the group. Um,
Yeah, really putting herself in Raiden's position,
exactly. Yeah,
but
which I
not.
thought
I
was
would say
super cool.
inadvertently, not like actually trying to. I don't know.
Right. Well,
Like
she
she
just
just
has
wanted to be
ideas,
helpful.
right?
She has
She
ideas.
wants to be
Yeah.
helpful and she knows she has an idea as to how to fix everything, which I thought was super cool.
Hmm.
So yeah, only 5 nobles of this group show up.
Hmm.
Um
But five of
and
the best and strongest in the country.
oh yeah, like Andel and there was another one, Roial, I think it was his name. Uh
Ahen. Uh,
right.
so yeah, oh god. All right. So
Okay.
Aodel.
Yeah, there's Sarene, Kyan, Lukel's there.
Uh,
Andel is one of them. He's
Andel,
I can't remember which one he
the
was.
military guy.
That's right.
Yeah.
Shuden is one.
Hmm.
I think he's the older like guy with a mustache,
Yeah,
maybe.
he's the one who's like this woman. Oh, whatever. To
Right.
yeah, because he's the one that's dismissive of Sarene, but in the end, he's the one that gets the most convinced from her actual leadership and skills.
Right.
And they have like a
Uh
chit chat afterwards together.
yeah,
Rael and Ahen. Rael is like the eldest of the
that's
nobles, and
right.
Ahen is like his counterpart. Because the
Yeah.
joke is like I think Ken mentions is like Rael and Ahen have known each other for so long that they've forgotten if they hated each other to begin with or were good friends, and now they're just doing it as a bit together.
That's super funny. Also,
Yeah,
Ahan or whatever is the like
mhm,
he's a pretty big guy.
yeah.
Yeah, and he kind of doesn't take much seriously, but he's a bit arrogant from what I remember.
Um.
And
Oh,
Edon is the other one.
Edon is
He's the
the one
lead.
who's like the most threatened to
Yeah,
get his land title removed because
because
he's
he's
getting the
about to
least
lose his
protection.
title, right?
Yeah, in the next
Yes.
monthly thing. Okay,
Yeah.
we're missing a guy. We're missing like a really young guy who's not from Arelon but has like a different complexion. I think he is Shudan.
Shuden. Yeah, I think that's
Shudan.
Shuden. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
think you're right.
And who's the older guy? Oh my gosh.
Well, the older
Well,
guy,
I'm
Royal, was an older guy.
yeah. Okay, I'm pulling up my book.
I'm pretty sure that's it.
No, there was. Hang on. Oh yeah, hang on. I think I know
Yeah,
what
that's
you mean.
5. Aendel,
Yeah.
Shuden, Royal, Ahan, and Edon. That's 5.
So yeah, Royal is the one who didn't like Sarene at first, and
Yes,
then comes to grow like her a lot.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
then Ahan is the one that is Rael's thorn, I guess, in his side, or his twin
Yes.
in
Yeah.
in
His nemesis.
his nemesis.
They're
They're both bored and they need to be kept busy somehow. So
bored,
they like
bored
little
old men.
schemes. Bored old men. Bored,
So yeah,
powerful old men. Yeah.
this is so there's a lot of conversation that happens in this one. I'm not going to go
Mm,
into all the details. Just a couple things that I noticed. There is a widow's trial that no one told Serene about. That she has to do,
yeah.
which is essentially some charitable work. There's also a bunch of balls that happen that no one's invited her to. So she decides that like she's going to get Royal and these other guys to take her in different
Mm,
like one ball Royal will take her, another ball Eden will take her. because she's been missing out of this. So we'll probably get some balls for her to go visit in the next few chapters. But yeah, the main crux of it is they're talking about this plan to sort of overthrow the king. Aendel floats like, oh, you could use my army to do it, but they don't want to do it in a violent way,
like they did last time.
Yep. And I think if I remember correctly, before Sarene interjects, they just kind of decide to like, oh, we're going to leave it as is and try to figure it out later or something.
They're like waiting on Aelin to come to his senses and then convince him to change or something like that.
Yeah.
Like they want to confront Aelin directly.
Yeah.
But they all agree that it's like, oh, it's impossible to do that because Aelin is so fixed in his ways.
Mm-hmm.
Because who was it? I think is Rael, butchering his name, is the one that's known. Royal.
I don't know.
Royal's known Aelin for the longest time.
Yes.
He's actually good friends with him.
Yeah.
So
yeah, they definitely have a relationship. Yeah. So this is when Sarene comes up with her plan.
Mm-hmm.
So from her plan is to
communism.
Well, that's hilarious. I mean, kind of. Yeah. It's like they get a piece of land, and they get to work it, and they get a percentage of the profits of the land. So it's giving these slaves a little. They're not slaves. It's giving these workers
serfs,
freedom,
peasants,
serfs. Yeah, something.
It is very feudal-esque.
It is feudalist. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's giving them freedom to earn their own living. It gives them, they can dream now. They can be like, okay, now I'm not just working for nothing. I'm working, and I can make my own money, and maybe I could buy some good food, or maybe I could buy some nice clothes, or all that kind of stuff. Like all of the trappings of our capitalist society, they have them at their fingertips, right?
Yeah.
So at first the group is very apprehensive, especially that royal guy. And I think it's Hrathen who is the first
sides
one.
With Sarene.
Yeah. And once he sides, that kind of cascades to Royal. And then once Royal sides, all of them fall in line essentially afterwards.
Yeah. Eden is also skeptical of it because he's like, I need to make this money. And if I just let my peasants have the money, I lose everything. So
yeah.
This is a dumb idea.
But if I remember...
he's very...
Go ahead. If I remember correctly, when he says that, they're all just like, shut up. Like, just, we're doing this.
They say they're like, we're going to lose our titles anyway. So, like,
yeah, exactly.
on board.
Yeah. Just get on board. We're doing this. Everybody just has to do it. Yeah.
So, you're right. Hrathen's like, yeah, it's a great idea. And then Royal says, no. And then Aeldil says, yeah, that's a great idea.
Right.
And Royal's like, I guess so.
Yes.
Like, begrudgingly. Yeah. And then Aiden, like, jumps on. I think Ahin's the last one. Because he's like, I kind of want to not say yes because Royal said yes.
Yeah, but like, I have to now.
Yeah. But the Sarene's like, well, you can say yes enthusiastically because Royal didn't want to do it at all. And he's forced into it. And he's like, you're right.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, for sure. And he's eating the whole time too.
He's eating the whole time. Oh my God. I mean, the way that they describe the dishes, or like the way that the different nobles are like salivating over the food, got me really hungry too.
Yeah.
And so I ended up like cooking like a focaccia bread. Oh, now I'm going off on a tangent.
That's
again.
okay.
Oh my God.
No.
Made focaccia, sourdough focaccia bread with some sliced potatoes, some onions, some rosemary. Oh my God, so good. And then on top of that, I made a fettuccine alfredo with scallops. So,
nice. Yeah, that'd be good.
And so
even like a true noble.
Truly.
Yeah.
I don't know what just living in life.
I guess.
One of life's vices for me is just enjoying food.
For sure, like, yeah. I mean, me too. Yeah.
One of the top things.
I love focaccia. Focaccia's good. Now I'm getting hungry.
Yeah. Well, I'm getting hungrier now. God damn it. I have to go to the gym. I have to make like
I did mine before this podcast.
No.
Yeah, I did gym and dinner before the podcast, and now that I'm hungry after this, I'm gonna go upstairs and see if we maybe have an ice cream sandwich or something.
Oh, I have ice cream in the freezer. Good point.
There you go.
Yeah. All right, back to
the book.
Saving the country.
Yeah. So yeah, they all agree, and that kind of ends the meeting. And then later on, Royal stays behind, and him and Kyan are talking. And Sarene listens in for a little bit, but then she comes in and talks. And Royal, he really likes Sarene. He's impressed by her quite a bit. They talk a bit about Rhaoden's death and about how Sarene doesn't
Thinks it's a
really
plot.
buy that it was an
Yeah.
actual like death, and that she's getting Ash to investigate
Hmm.
what's been going on about the suspicious circumstances under which Rhaoden died. But she's going to get Ash to do that.
Hmm.
But we actually find out right now that Ash is in Elantris, just trying to see what Hrathen was interested in. Like he's investigating, like why was Hrathen preaching against the Elantrians, and maybe there's some clues there. And
I
the
forgot
chapter
about
kind of,
that actually.
yeah, I
Oh,
know
great call.
it's a really like blink and
It's
you'll
like a
miss it kind of
throwaway.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I forgot about it too until I was doing my notes.
Mm.
And yeah, then the chapter ends with her just kind of sort of reiterating her concern about Rothan, and like what his
Whole end goal is.
yeah, exactly, what his
Yeah.
whole angle is. So how do you think the plan is going to go? Like, you think Iadon's going to take it well?
No, of course not. But what's going to happen is that the five nobles will have their uh, estates, I guess,
Hmm.
their portions of the land. They're should I say employees then instead of peasants? Because they're going to be actually, I don't know, I guess peasants because they're
Yeah,
working for themselves.
peasants make sense.
They're I guess so. We'll
Yeah,
say peasants.
sure.
They'll be like spreading the news of how much money they're making to the other
Mm,
nobles, that there's gonna be a bit of like a contention. So all
yeah.
the nobles are gonna confront Iadon and be like, hey, why are these other nobles doing it this way? That doesn't make any sense. Mine
Hmm.
aren't gonna work anymore because they want, better pay. Right. So there's gonna be a confrontation, and I I don't know if they're gonna be like, hey, Idon, change your mindset because the people are upset. Oh, that's right. Sarene was the only one that looked at the numbers for the production over the years.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I
she's
forgot
like,
about that.
she brings it up. She's like, oh yeah, like I was looking at the numbers and they keep declining every year. And then everyone's silent. They're like, what numbers? And Sarene's like, oh my god,
Wow. Yeah, I
like the
completely
system's
forgot about
not
that.
working. You guys have not done anything about it. And
Yeah.
so, yes, so far, Sarene, my favorite character.
Yeah, no, she's great. I really
Yeah.
like her too. Yeah, I didn't think about that, about how the peasants are going to be talking amongst each other, but that is a really
Mhm.
good point, and that's going to sort of sow some discontent
Yeah.
amongst other peasants and nobles, and could lead to sort of a flipping of the paradigm that exists right now, which is cool. I was also thinking that, I mean, I expect that the plan's going to work,
Mhm.
and that these nobles are going to be making more money than the other nobles. And
Because the production's gonna go way up.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. And then it's going to make them look good, and the other nobles look bad, and the other nobles are going to be like, what's going on? And that's going to be yet another thing that's pushing
Yeah.
the them to sort of again flip the system and do it in a different way.
They wanna jump in on that action too, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So what about Raoden and what he's doing with his plan? Like
Well,
do you think, like, I don't think that it's sustainable for him to keep taking the newcomers.
no.
There's going to be some
So
serious opposition at some point.
I read that extra chapter,
Ugh.
and there is an opposition. But, like, surprisingly turns out well, and we do get an answer to what happened to the kids.
Okay, well,
Ooh,
don't spoil it.
foreshadowing. Well,
Yeah.
I'm not telling you anything. But yes,
Next
there is
episode we'll
literally the
talk about
next
that.
chapter. Oh, sorry, go
Okay.
ahead.
No, no, no.
Yeah, next chapter, someone was saying like, "Oh, this is going really good, well, or whatever," and then the guard like comes in with like a makeshift spear. He's like, we got armed people running towards us right now," and he's got like a dinky little thing. He's like, "What do we do?" He's like, and Raiden's like, let's invite them in, see what they want, and try not
See?
to do less amount of damage." So,
So still, even with what you've read ahead of
mm,
time, any ideas as to
sustainability.
what his plan is? Like we obviously know that he wants to, make them have a
Mhm.
purpose, but what more is there to it? Like, what could,
I
I'm thinking they might stumble upon something in the books that gives them a hint. Like, the books might play into it,
Mhm.
and it might sort of switch what they're trying to do, or give them a different sense of purpose. But right now, the plan as it is, which is like, let's give the people of Elantris a sense of purpose,
Mm.
I don't know if it's enough.
It I wouldn't say it's not the end. Yeah, it probably won't be enough. I think they might want to continue doing more. I'd say
Hmm.
what they probably might want to do is try to get into the library after. So
Right.
what? And then this is me reading ahead and being like, okay, well, this sounds like there's going to be some alliances forming.
Hmm.
So two gangs versus one gang.
Yeah.
There might be some pressure there, right?
Yeah.
So there, I think Rhaeden will end up wanting to know what happened, and I think Galadon is going to be hesitant with that information. I think he knows it.
Right.
I think,
Yeah.
yeah, because again, Rhaeden is like not cluing into like Galadon knowing so much until like the last minute. He's like, "Are you Galadon?"
Mm.
And so he
Hmm.
still becomes very hesitant with what he says, and I'm still like dubious, and so is Rhaeden, but because they trust each other in that regard,
Yeah.
working together.
Yeah.
But like building a roof, having shoes, that's better than getting robbed and being
Hmm.
aimless. So it is better than nothing, I suppose.
Yeah, for sure. I
Yeah.
mean, something has to change in Elantris. Like something is going to change in
Mm,
Elantris, whether or not it's good or bad.
mm,
That's still left to for us to figure out, to read and find out.
yeah.
But I do also agree that there's going to have to be some sort of alliance with the other gangs. Like they're going to have to come into play at some point here soon.
Yeah.
And last is Rothan and
Yeah.
Dilaf. So we did get a lot these last few chapters into his plans and a little bit more about his character. Um, I'm kind of expecting that instead of having like staying a bad guy and turning more bad, that he's
Mm,
going to have like a almost like a good guy turn. Like we're going to see that he's not like just a
mm,
terrible person, and that he's going to do something to potentially like
hmm.
help Arelon rather than
Let it be taken over by
let it
the
be
Empire?
taken over by the Empire. Yeah, that's
Ah.
just my that's a big guess, and I could be completely wrong, but I feel like he's too smart. And if
He's
Rhaoden
very
and
loyal. He's
Sarene, he
very
is very
loyal to
loyal. That's
her.
true. But if he's if Sarene and potentially Rhaoden and Galadon are able to convince him about
Mm,
like the goodness of Elantris, or he's able to see something or have a moment that he's smart enough to recognize that the Empire could be in the wrong, or that
or
the
the Empire
Empire's
could
evil,
use that information,
or that he's
right?
one of the baddies.
Yeah, well, we do see that I want to say good natured side, but we do see like the sympathetic side of
Hmm.
Hrathen
Yeah.
in chapter 9, where he's like where he doesn't want to have bloodshed, not like before.
Right.
And so I wonder if we get to see a glimpse of Hrathen's like ascent to being a Bjorn over the years, and the things that
Mm.
he wished the Empire did differently versus now, and like his ambition to being a Bjorn is to save as many people as possible, not for the
Yeah.
sake of being converted to Jaddeth, but like because they're they deserve to be alive.
Yeah, exactly. Because they're
So
people and they just deserve
because
it.
yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm expecting that we get like a bit of a backstory to Hrathen, and you know what I think? I think we're gonna get a bit of him like comparing himself to Dilaf on the paths he could have taken in the past, which is like
Mm.
one being more empathetic and sympathetic to the people, one that like which is like pure hatred
Yeah.
for
Hardline.
others, hardline, yeah, like an extremist versus more of a um oh what's not extremist, not extremist, oh my gosh,
Uh,
welcome to the
I don't know.
political book podcast,
We
oh
don't know.
god, yeah. So I
Yeah.
think we're going to see a bit of that self-reflection and a bit of a backstory.
Yeah, for sure. And what about Dilaf? I think
Oh, he's going to be such a mess. He's going to be
this
such a
guy's not
mess.
gonna survive this book
No,
100%. I don't
no,
think
no,
he's
no,
gonna
no,
survive
no.
this book. He's just like he's a powder keg and something's gonna happen.
You know what he reminds me of?
But
Oh god, I forgot his name. But in Kung Fu Panda, the leopard dude, where he
okay.
like wants to do good by Master Shifu, like his
Uh-huh.
adopted father, but like
Yeah.
ends up screwing everything the entire time. And then like gets upset at Shifu for denying him his right as the Dragon Warrior. And
Right.
so I expect Dilop to have Rothan tell him like you did bad, dude. This isn't the way. And then Dilop's like,
Okay.
oh, you're not the true. follower of Jadith, and then I think he turns on Hrathen.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah,
Yeah, we've gone from
I could see that.
fascism to DreamWorks Entertainment.
I could definitely see that turn happening. Him turning on Hrathen, because
Mm,
the way Hrathen is going about his mission, and Deloff knows his mission because he's read the script from Wern. He could
yeah.
really like end up disagreeing with that, and that could come to a head for
It could
sure.
be misinterpretation, excuse me,
Yes.
of the actions therein.
Yep.
Do you think we'll get to see, like, Warren gets talked about a lot, but we don't actually get to see him? Do you think he'll show up?
Yeah, that's a good question.
No.
I feel like
And who's
maybe.
Wern? Like, we're getting these like all
Yeah.
powerful Emperor Wern and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Do you think he'll be on a
exactly.
throne with a hood?
Well, so just from like my experience with Sanderson as a writer, you do eventually get to like you see the top level of this world. What happened?
Oh, the video froze on my end.
Oh, okay.
The audio's fine. Sorry.
Yeah, so you see like the top level people in the world. So like, because they're all connected to, I don't want to say too much. You just, yeah, I think we will. I think we'll see.
Okay.
I think we'll see Wern, or we'll get a little bit of insight into that.
Do we get to know? Do you want to speculate who Wern is?
I don't know if I can say that without spoiling anything about the Cosmere. I don't think Wern is someone who's related to any of the other books, but saying who I think he is would spoil things about the Cosmere, which I don't want to spoil.
Okay.
You're getting right now what's happening is something that's probably going to happen a lot when we read like Mistborn and stuff, books that I've already read, because we won't be speculating because I'll already know. But yeah, I think it's something related to the Cosmere. And since this book is in the Cosmere, usually we encounter those things. I'm trying not to say much. So yeah, I do think we will see him or her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, is it not him?
I don't know if they ever said the gender of Wern.
Okay.
I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, they call him Emperor, not Empress, so
that's true. Yeah, so it probably is a he.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is from chapter, what are we talking about? 7 to 11.
11.
That's right. What we need to do now is determine how many more chapters we're going to read, and if we want to read even more for the next episode.
Yeah.
Do we want to speed up the pace with which we're reading this book? So my numbers that I had, if we were doing 5 chapters a week to finish this book, would be like 2.5 months or something like that.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. So we're on chapter 11. There is 63 chapters. So what are your thoughts? Do you want to increase the chapter count? Do we want to do like 10 chapters an episode, or?
Okay, well, I need to ask you because you're the one recording. How long has this episode been running on here?
This episode has been an hour and 15 minutes or so.
And that's for 5 chapters. And
I mean, okay, our last episode was an hour and 15 minutes and we did 3 chapters. We just kind of fill time.
That's true.
It just means that I think if we were to move to doing more chapters, that again, we would lose even more granularity with what we're discussing inside the chapters, which is totally fine. And then it would be more of us just sort of theory crafting and talking about bigger events and not really getting too into the woods with kind of things.
Yeah, that's true. I kind of want to follow the storyline throughout the chapters and not like jump across different chapters.
Yeah, I like that
end up
too.
Going a bigger thing, because then we get to like, well,
it's tough.
Yeah, it's tough. We could try it out. Hey, next chapter we go up to like, was it so chapter 12 to say chapter 20? We can increase it up to 7, or
just like to the end of chapter 20 for the next episode.
Yeah, and then see.
Okay.
How we both feel about it.
I mean, I've just read up to chapter 11, so that would be from 12 to 20, which is fine.
Including 20.
Including 20. Yep.
Yeah.
And then we can reevaluate then if we want to do another 10. So I'm looking actually at I'm on Coppermind right now, and I'm not looking past chapter 11, but I am
Mhm.
just looking at the way they broke it down, and the book is broken down into 3 parts.
Hmm.
Um, and the end of part 1 is at chapter 27. So yeah, we could do to chapter 20 and then finish part 1 for the following episode,
Oh.
right? And then
Yeah.
maybe break part 3 into 3 or 2 episodes, something like that.
Yeah, there's like 55 to chapter 55 to 63.
Is part
That's
Yeah, so that like I
part
imagine
4,
part
part
3 would
3,
probably be like 1 episode
8
because we could
chapters.
finish all
Yeah,
of those. Yeah.
that's fine.
Okay. We'll talk
Yeah.
about it a bit offline, but give you guys a little bit of behind the scenes as to what we're planning for the next episode. So, yeah, next episode, we are going to read to chapter 20. We're going to try
Mm.
that out and see how that cadence works for us and how the episode goes. But yeah, again, the more we read of this book, the more I'm liking it. I'm interested to see where it's all going.
I'm super invested in this book. Like, I had to stop myself from reading more so I wouldn't
Oh,
get
nice.
spoiled.
Awesome.
I had to like put it down.
And
Yeah.
according to Sanderson, this is like one of his, not weakest, but he evolves as a writer when
Yeah.
we get to Mistborn, and he gets even better. And I agree with this. He gets even better as a writer when we get to Stormlight, which is
Mm.
really, really good.
Ooh, you're hyping it up. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
it's gonna get good.
Huh. That would be another one for the books.
Oh God. And with that, we're done.
Hey.
Thanks, everybody.
See
We'll
you
see
next
you
time.
next time. Bye.